There, I'm Joshua Maria Garcia, and welcome to Summer Hebrew Reading. This is our sixth and final lesson in this series, and this lesson will be pretty short. The goal of this series is really just to get you reading. There's a lot of other information I could have packed in here, but I really just wanted to give you the essentials and some of the tools you'll need to go deeper if you want to. So let's review our alphabet, and we're going to go through a few times. First, we're going to go through naming the letters, and I'm going to move somewhat quickly. Feel free to slow down the playback speed of the video using the settings button, which is somewhere over here on the lower right of your screen, and feel free to also repeat. I encourage you to repeat as much as possible to really memorize this. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tav. That's the Aleph-Bet, or the alphabet in Hebrew. Now let's talk about sounds. Aleph, as we know, is silent, but it often carries a vowel so that we can hear the vowel sound. Bet makes a b or v sound, and we sometimes call it bet or vet. Gimel makes a g sound, Dalet a d sound, Hey a h sound, and Vav a v sound, or an o sound with a nikud or dot up here, and an u sound with a nikud or dot in there. Zayin makes a z, Chet is ch, Tet t, Yod y. But Yod can also participate in a vowel like E or I or A or Av, right? It can participate in vowel sounds just like Y in English. And actually, let's go back for a second, because Hey, well, it does make a H sound, we now know, can be silent at the end of a word, and it can also make a H sound, at the end of words like Eloah, for God, and that's when it's a hey mapik with a mapik in the middle of the hey. That's the name of the dot in the middle of the hey in that instance. Kaf can make a k or a ch sound. Lamed makes a l sound. Mem a m sound. Nun a n sound, and samech a s sound. Ayin is silent but can carry a vowel like aleph. But we need to know that aleph and ayin. Okay, I'll have to edit that out. But we need to know that aleph and ayin are not the same. There are different grammatical rules which govern aleph and ayin, and which vowels they can take and in what situations. And so we will see that ayin, which is technically a guttural letter, whereas aleph is not, ayin is going to create some changes in words, which we're going to see a little bit later in this lesson. So it's important to learn aleph and ayin as really separate letters. Pei can be pei or fei, or p or f. Tzadi is always ts, like in pizza. Kuf is k. Resh is r, which we usually roll in standard pronunciation when we're learning biblical Hebrew. And shin is really two letters, shin and sin. And these are not allophones, they're two separate phonemes. So shin and sin are not going to switch places. Shin won't become sin in different grammatical settings. They're really two different letters that are just written the same way. And tav makes a t sound. What's not shown here is final forms. Do you remember which letters have final forms? I'll give you a second. You can pause and see if you can remember. There are 5. Kaf, she can drop her leg down here, her foot down here, to become a longer kaf, or kaf sofit, right? Mem has a final form where it just sort of becomes a box. Nun can drop her foot down to make a long final form. Pei can drop her foot down to make a longer final form, and Tzadi can drop her foot down to make a longer final form. And those are your 5 sofit letters, your 5 letters that have a final form: Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pei, and Tzadi. Now there are 3 letters that change sound with a dagesh or without a dagesh. Right? Do you remember which ones those are? Those are bet, which can be b or v, b with a dagesh, v without. And we might say bet and vet. Then also kaf, kaf with a dagesh, ch, chaf without. And pei, p, f, pei, fe, p with a dagesh, f without. Those are our 3 changing letters. There are also 7 letters, or really technically 6, that's kind of complicated, that are called doubles. And they can take, or they will take a dagesh in a number of different situations. Some of them will actually change because of that dagesh, and some of them won't in standard pronunciation. And so bet, gimel, and dalet will all take a dagesh at the beginning of a word. And we've seen examples of that, whether or not I've always pointed it out to you, you've seen it. Bet, gimel, and dalet will always have a dagesh at the beginning of a word. And these were pronounced differently in classical Hebrew, but not in standard pronunciation, with the exception of bet. So beged is the first part of the acronym. And kefat is the second part of the acronym. That's kaf, pei, and tav. All these letters will take, the beged kefet letters will take a dagesh at the beginning of a word and in certain other circumstances. Now, in the Bible, reish also sometimes takes a dagesh, even though it's really ungrammatical for it to do that and really unexpected. But it happens, I think, 10 times in the Hebrew Bible, and the Jewish mystics make a great deal they get a great deal of interpretation and insight out of that phenomenon. So that's pretty interesting. All right. Now, we also learned that last time that kamats can sometimes make an O sound, like in the case of chataf kamats. And so this word down here that we learned first is ani, but the chataf kamats is an O sound, so we get oni. And what's really happening here, which I didn't explain last time because I felt like it was maybe too much information, what's really happening here is that this form, which is a noun, really calls for a shva. And this is true with all the chataf vowels. All the chataf vowels are trying to be a shva, but for whatever grammatical reason are incapable of being a shva in that spot. And so the shva takes on a sort of secondary, like semi-vowel quality that then gets read into that slot. So we really want ani here, ani, right? But we can't say that, so we get oni instead. And we go with the vowel that comes from the parallel form. And so here, ani means oppressed or poor, and up here we have a poor person or an oppressed person. It's become a noun with a different vowel pattern, trying to be shva chirik, but instead we get chataf kamatz chirik oni. If that was confusing, don't worry about it, because you really don't need that to be able to learn to read Hebrew. We also talked a little bit last time about the word all, or every, or each, kol, which can stand on its own here. Kol means all, every, each, but it's often attached to a word coming after it. Kol halayla, all the night long. Kol yom, every day. And so that's kol when it's attached to another word. And the kamatz here is a kamatz katan. It is an O sound instead of the anticipated A sound. I think we also learned the rules of kamatz katan last time, and this kamatz does in fact follow the rules when it is attached to a word following. We also learned about furtive patach, this patach that sneaks under the last letter of a word, in situations where the last letter is hey, chet, lots of chet, or ayin, and these are the guttural letters. And so those guttural letters are the ones that are going to give us trouble. Been planting this seed, dropping this hint a few times. Those are the ones that are going to give us trouble when it comes to vowel shifts, right? And so you'll only see a final patach, a furtive patach, underneath these 3 letters, and it's going to not take stress. It's not going to take stress. And so additionally, when we have a hey, it's going to become a hey mapik. So we're going to hear the hey, it will not be silent. So it's not Eloah, it's Eloah. Eloah. And that means God. Koach, strength or power, not koach, right? And we have the stress sort of moves back to the penultimate position. Koach, strength or power. Nuach, rest. Mizbeach, altar. Mashiach, Messiah. and rea. Now you might say that has initial stress. Kind of. It has penultimate stress, and this word only has 2 syllables. So the penultimate syllable, the syllable that comes before the last one, happens to also be the first syllable. Rea. So we're not going to call that initial stress. Actually, we're going to call it penultimate stress. It just gets pushed back by that sneaky patach, pushing her way through to the end of the line. Here are some more examples of kamatz katan as opposed to chataf kamatz. You can't always see that a kamatz katan is katan. It literally means a little kamatz. Here you have 2 kamatzes. Kamatzim, is that how we say kamatzes? Not sure. 2 kamatzes, and one is a true kamatz, this one, and the other is kamatz katan, this one. So we expect chachma with final stress, chachma, but because this syllable, chach, is closed, right? It begins and ends with a consonant sound, so it's closed, chach, 2 consonant sounds. And because it's unstressed, chachma, that's where the stress is, this kamatz is going to become a kamatz katan and shift to an O sound. Chochma. So try this one on your own. Notice 2 syllables. This is a closed syllable, and this is the stressed syllable. Korban, sacrifice. Okay, here's some last little bits of information I want to give you before we part ways, although I hope you will join me in my next little venture, which is a tutorial on how to write the Hebrew letters, both in block print and script. I'm thinking about also tossing in Rashi script, but unless you're studying rabbinics, it's unlikely that you'll need it. But just in case, I'm thinking about doing that. So be sure to like and subscribe so you can get updates when I post new videos. It also really helps me as a creator to reach more people with this very accessible, free information. That is my life goal, as you know, to increase accessibility to biblical languages. So last little bits here. Let's talk about segolets, and this is grammar. This is real grammar, but it will help you read. We've learned segolet nouns mostly by sight at this point, and I've told you before, there are no exceptions in grammar, right? There's just rules we haven't learned yet. And so we've learned a lot of segolet nouns, and we know that they have initial stress, but we haven't really learned entirely why. And the reason is also not entirely on this screen either. These are just the rules. But the reason is that segolet nouns probably came into Hebrew from Ugaritic. And so they are a kind of different class of nouns. They have a different origin story than other nouns. And so they behave differently in Hebrew. And the theory is that that's because they come from a different Canaanite language. Hebrew is a Canaanite language, by the way. But Ugaritic, its neighbor to the north, actually has all of these nouns, and probably Hebrew is influenced by Ugaritic. Now, that's the why. Here's the how. This is the rule. These are the features of the segolet noun. First of all, they're bisyllabic in the singular, 2 syllables, right? Ohel, initial stress. That's the second feature. Ohel, not ohel, but ohel, and that's a tent or a tabernacle. The ohel moed is the tent of meeting, for example. And so bisyllabic, ohel, and initial stress, ohel. The second syllable of your segolet noun is usually going to be a segol, which is how we've identified them in the past and why I use initial stress on the vowel name segol to give you that hint, right? The second vowel, though, is going to be that vowel, the segol vowel, and that's the one that is going to be unstressed. Ohel, not ohel, but ohel, initial stress. Boker, morning. Mavet, death. Melech, king. Na'ar. Okay. See if you can figure out why we don't have a segol on that second syllable. If you said guttural letter, you're right. The answer's on the screen, but but I planted those seeds before. When we have a guttural letter, things are going to get a little bit messy. And we do. Na'ar, we have an I in there, and so the vowel has actually been colored by the consonant and shifted as a result. And that one, you're just going to have to remember. Na'ar, not like I just said a second ago, na'ar, right? Na'ar. That's where the emphasis is on that first syllable. Here's some bonus vocabulary. These are divine words that have to do with God that come up a lot in the Bible that will be very useful. And I also think this is kind of fun because a lot of people who are studying Hebrew are doing so for a spiritual or religious reason. And so here's some exciting words, spiritual divine words from our Hebrew Bible. So we have this word here. This is Adonai. And this is not Adonai as in the name of God in Hebrew, the four-letter name of God in Hebrew, but really my Lord. And it is my Lord when you're talking to God, but it's not my Lord replacing the Hebrew name. But that's kind of complicated because today, when Jewish people are reading the text of the Hebrew Bible, they replace the name of God with Adonai. So it's kind of complicated. I know that probably sounds like it doesn't make sense, but this is also just a real word in the Bible that's spelled out this way sometimes, Adonai, my Lord. And it is only used when speaking specifically to God because actually the suffix here is plural, and we don't use plural suffixes as honorifics when speaking to people. How about this word? El. El means God, or at least that's how it's translated. Probably originally it was an actual proper name, but here in the Hebrew Bible we typically translate it as God. Elohim. Elohim. Elohim has two meanings, or really three. It's also often translated just God, and sometimes it shows up for gods to mean gods, because im is a plural suffix as well. And so Elohim can mean gods, and it can mean a singular God, and it can mean the singular God. It can mean all three of those things, and it's used all three ways in the Bible. It's used in some circumstances to talk about the gods of other nations. It's used in some circumstances to talk about a single God from a different nation, and it's also used to talk about God. How about this one? Malach. Malach. Malach means angel. Well, kind of. It means messenger, and a human messenger can be a malach, and a malach can also be an angel, and all we really have to go on is context there. Olam. Olam. Now, olam can mean the world, but that's really a modern twist. Olam really means eternity. But you can see there how in Hebrew there is this kind of merger of space and time, right? There's this kind of idea of space and time being connected, and that's true in a lot of ancient languages. Elyon. Elyon means a high, exalted, and typically this is used to mean the Most High God, Elyon. Tzur. That's a hard one. Tzur. Tzur means rock, stone, boulder, a big, strong rock. And it's one of the names of God in the Bible, my rock. Tzuri, my rock. Tzaddik. Tzaddik. Tzaddik means righteous, or it can refer to a righteous person. Sometimes it's translated as saint as well. Kodesh. Kodesh means holy. Literally, it means separated, set apart. Kodesh means holy. And there's a strong relationship between the idea of separation and distinction and holiness in the Bible. Shem. Shem, usually pronounced Shem these days. Shem means name. So Hashem is the name when we're talking about God in a Jewish space often, but Shem or Shem means name. Little tricky, I didn't give you the nikud, but if we don't have a nikud, we assume this is a shin and not a sin, right? Shemayim. Shemayim doesn't have final stress there with this particular suffix. Shemayim means sky. Now, someone's going to say, no, it means heaven. It means sky. Shamayim means sky. It comes from the Akkadian or Babylonian word for sky. And the idea of a cosmic heaven is not something that the authors of the Hebrew Bible were really thinking of when they wrote the Hebrew Bible. They're really thinking of the sky. So when it says, at the beginning of Genesis, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, in the beginning when God was creating the heavens and the earth, it's really the sky and the earth, above and below. These two realms are sort of the cosmology of these ancient people. Let's learn a little bit of family vocabulary. So I've included some pictures here to help you. We're going to start over here, actually. First of all, here's one big word. And don't be intimidated. Just break it down into syllables. Just these two letters first. Mish. Then this one by itself, one vowel, one syllable, right? This syllable by itself, pa, and this syllable by itself, cha. Mish, pa, cha. Mishpacha means family, mishpacha. And there's a lot of family terminology in the Bible. You might have also heard the Yiddish variation or sort of loan word from this, which is mishpocha. Mishpocha means family in Yiddish, but mishpacha is how we pronounce it in standard pronunciation. Bayit. The bayit is the house, right? And there's the little loving family. Bayit is house. Hamishpacha babayit. The family is in the house, Hamishpacha, the family, babayit, is in the house. And here we have an aim, a mom, av, mother, really, not mom, mother, father, ben, son, and bat, daughter. This is a heteronormative family. Now, maybe we have a brother and a sister, and so we have ach for brother and achot for sister. Now, if you keep learning Hebrew, you'll know that ot is usually a plural ending. It is not a plural ending in this case. It's just the O is a result of a vowel shift. It's not a plural ending. So achot means one sister. And the plurals get weird around family names, and actually words that are used very commonly will often have weird, seemingly irregular plural rules in lots of languages, not just Hebrew. So av, father, the plural is avot, fathers. And avot is also used to mean ancestors. Aim means mother, and the ancient plural of aim is imot. Imot means mothers. However, in Hebrew nowadays, it's usually imahot. And so that's a really fun one with a lot of history behind it. But the ancient form imot is used and is useful to know so that you'll be able to recognize it if you move forward with Hebrew. Mothers. Bain is son, but banim is sons. And you might be wondering, oh, hey, this is an unstressed kamat. Why isn't it bonim? Bonim. Well, first of all, because bonim means builders, not sons. But second of all, because ba is an open syllable, ba, and nim is the second syllable that's stressed. So it's because it's not a closed syllable, this kamat stays kamat, banim. And that's sons. It also means children of any gender. Bat is daughter. And banot is daughters, specifically daughters. Ach, brother, achim, brothers. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Behold how good it is for brothers to dwell together. Or siblings. Achim can mean siblings of various genders. Achot is sister, one sister. Achayot is sisters. Achayot is sisters. And there's an asterisk there because this isn't actually used in its dictionary entry form in the Bible. So there's never a place in the Bible where achayot is standing alone. It always has a suffix or something else going on with it. So for that reason, it's really kind of hard to tell what the Bible was using as the plural. And there's some disagreement about what the plural should be, actually. Todah, thank you so much for joining me for learning how to read Hebrew. It is such an accomplishment if you've made it this far. I looked at some of the statistics on my previous videos, and it looks like about half, maybe slightly less than half of people who watch the first video actually go on to continue with the course. That could be for a variety of reasons, but one of them, I think, is that it's just work and time and patience and energy to learn how to read a different alphabet with so many different rules that are under the surface that are difficult to comprehend at first, some that we haven't even learned yet, but that you've seen represented on the screen. So if you want to continue learning Hebrew, here's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to like and subscribe, because that way you'll be updated when I publish new videos. But I also encourage you to use your skills and to use what you have to continue learning. Get yourself a Hebrew Bible. A JPS Tanakh is great. For a just Hebrew, like only Hebrew Bible, I prefer the Koren Hebrew because it has a beautiful typeface and really great annotation. And just read, just keep reading. If you're Jewish, go to a synagogue and pray and try to read the prayers in Hebrew. That's really going to help you to incorporate these skills into your regular life. If you're not Jewish, read a psalm a day as a prayer. Take the resources that you have and use them to continue utilizing these skills. And again, stay tuned because more is coming. Thank you so much. You did such a good job. And you might ask, Joshua, how do you know? Because you got to this point. Todah, Todah Rabbah. I hope you have a wonderful life full of learning biblical languages.